He'll be okay. He'll take me out. Do you want to stand? Or something? You can also do it. Never seen anything. Yeah, that'd be good. Okay, that would help. Thank you, Carrie. Did you do the owl situation?
That will plug itself in immediately.
Hey, Katie, nice to see you.
Yes, someone muted themselves.
I do want to have a conversation with you offline, okay?
That's Greg.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Greg, how's it going?
Hey, Benicia. Good. How are you?
Doing well.
Thank you.
We still have some folks trickling in into the building, everyone, and some still coming in into the team's meeting as well. So we'll keep giving it a couple more minutes. Good to see everyone online. You are. I do have you all muted, but if you want to speak, you can unmute yourself. You guys ready? Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're good to go ahead and get started, everyone. I'm Chris O'Kelly. I'm with Florida Commerce's Office of Rural Initiatives. I also serve as the REDI coordinator for the agency, and that's the role I'm here in today. Look forward to a good meeting, and I want to thank City of Lake Wales and Central Florida Regional Planning Council for hosting the meeting. And I'm excited to all the conversations we're going to have, both in person and those online with us. So Jennifer, do you want to say anything? Sure, I can. Yeah, that's a good idea. Just right.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Cotto Salisbury. I'm with the Central Florida Regional Planning Council.
Benicia Frazier, RPP. Dina Jungo, City of Lake Wales. Denise Grimsley, the Development Group.
Vitor Seguri, FDOT.
Hillary Reyes, Scale Innovation.
Nancy Dodd, Duke Energy.
Skip Alford, Lake Wales Chamber, DC. Russell Upchurch, Florida Department of Corrections.
Allison Beatty, Florida Department of Transportation, Central Office.
Stephanie Monfils, Bush Regional Planning Council.
Jerry Sackett, Central Florida Regional Planning Council.
USDA from USDA.
Awesome.
Easter Mendez from USDA.
Awesome. Thank you guys all for making the effort to get out here today. We'll do a quick go through of everyone who is here.
Do the folks on.
Oh, yes, that's your step, Henry. Thank you.
Folks online would be willing to introduce yourselves. Greg, I heard you on.
Yep. And I can call out the different agencies if that works for everyone. And as you hear your name, if you're online, go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know who you are, who you're with, and yeah, thank you. So we'll start with Agency for Healthcare Administration. Is anyone online with ACA? Career. Yeah, good. Career Source Florida. Anyone online with Career Source? Department of Agriculture.
Yes, good morning. This is, go ahead. This is John Stiles with the Florida Forest Service.
Okay. Awesome.
And Andrew Hayes with the Rural Development Telecom Program.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I have to drop off for another meeting and then come back at the end to do a presentation on our DLT program. I hope that's not a problem.
Yeah, that's fine. The agency presentations are scheduled near the end of the meeting, so you should be good for that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Department of Children and Families.
Good morning. This is Mervet Atalla from Department of Children and Families.
Thanks for joining us, Mervet. Department of Corrections, I believe he was in the back. Department of Education. Department of Environmental Protection.
Good morning. This is Lindsay Weaver from DEP.
Lindsay, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, this is Shauna Allen with State Lands, DP, Office of, Land and Recreation Grant Section.
Thank you for joining us. Department of Health. Department of Juvenile Justice. Department of State.
Hi, good morning. Catherine Beck, Department of State, Florida Main Street. And thank you. This is one of my Main Street communities, so I hope you enjoy your visit today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on that part of the asset mapping exercise. So excited to see the work you've worked on. Department of Transportation. Yeah, thank you. Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Institute of Food and Agricultural Science, IFAS. And then from our regional planning councils, do you have anyone from Appalachia Regional Planning Council?
Hi, this is Alex Valdez, one of the economic development planners at the Appalachia Regional Planning Council.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Alex. North Central.
Good morning, Scott Coons of North Central.
Thanks, Scott.
And
Northeast.
also Lauren Yetter with North Central Florida.
Thank you. Northeast. Central, anyone here from Central Florida Regional Planning Council?
I think we have all.
Yeah, I think we have full squad there. Thank you guys for hosting. Southwest Regional Planning Council. And Treasure Coast. I didn't look at these specifically up at water management districts. Anyone from any of our water management districts? I think I had at least one of you.
Yes, good morning. It's Cindy Rodriguez from Southwest Florida Water Management District. I do government affairs for Polk County. So good morning to all my folks.
Hi, and this is Susan Davis with St. John's River Water Management District.
Thanks for joining us, Susan.
Good morning. This is Ben Glass from Swanee.
Thanks for joining us, Ben. Was there anyone else?
Yeah. Good morning, Daryl Boudreaux, Northwest Water
Daryl,
Management District.
Yeah, I like that shirt.
Morning.
Sarah Driggers with St. John's River Water Management District.
Thank you, Sarah. And U.S. Department of Agriculture, I believe, Andrew, you already introduced yourself. And then Greg Boudet, I saw you for USEDA. So thank you guys all for being here. I know, Greg, you've had a busy week touring the state, so appreciate the effort.
I did, and it was nice to see you as part of our team. So thank you very much, and say hi to my friends at the RPCs, Scott, Lauren, and Jennifer, and Benicia and folks. So thank you all.
Awesome.
Hey, and Chris, this is Denise from the Florida Regional Councils Association, representing all 10
Awesome.
regional planning.
Yeah, thank you, Denise. Right. Is anyone I missed who wants to introduce themselves real quickly?
Roy Baker, opportunity. Go ahead.
Okay, Roy Baker. Yeah.
This is Ada Clark with the Emerald Coast Regional Planning Council.
Sorry, I missed you. And I heard Roy Baker as well from Opportunity Florida. Thanks for being on, Roy.
Diane Scholes from the NFEDP.
Diane, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Absolutely.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Natalie Hall, Economic Development Specialist with the U.S. Small Business Administration located here in Jacksonville.
Right, but I think that's all. Go ahead.
Oh, hi, Chris. It's Pam Portwood. Of course, Florida
Pam.
Commerce. I'm Bureau Chief for Small Cities and Rural Communities, and I've also got Kristen Bashirs on the line. She is our Community Program Manager for Rural Infrastructure Fund and the Regional Rural Development Grant Program. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Pam, and thank you, Kristen. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. I know it's a bit of a process, but it really helps everyone know who all is here, who we can work with, and who we may want to reach out to either during or after the meeting. So thank you for your patience as we got through that. But I think it is an important part of the process. As I mentioned, Central Florida Regional Planning Council and Lake Wales are hosting us today. So I want to give them, before we get started, an opportunity to say anything if they have anything.
Welcome to Lake Wales. Thanks for being here.
I just wanted to say we are so excited to host this meeting today. Welcome to Central Florida and the Heartlands. And as the Regional Planning Council, it's just wonderful. I love these meetings because all the faces in the room and all of the folks online, it takes the community, it takes a village, it takes everybody in this room to make a difference in our communities. And thank you all for all you do and for all of your partnerships. And one example today that we'll see in this afternoon is what's happening right here in Lake Wales and across the region. So just wanted to say welcome and thank you.
All right. I think that's it for introductions. We'll just go ahead and get into our program. I believe, Benicia, you were going to present on the competitive Florida. Again, I won't answer the slides. You just give me a heads up. I'll have us through.
Okay, good morning. My name is Benicia Frazier. I serve as program manager with the RPC, and I will be going over some specifics as it relates to the Florida Commerce Grant. We're going to start with some foundational information relative to the city of Lake Wales. We're going to get into some partnerships. I'll end it with giving you some general information as it relates to the next steps associated with this grant, which is pretty fun. And following this meeting, we're going to get into the asset mapping exercise where I encourage those participants here today to participate. So we'll start with this slide, which is foundational in nature. It contains some demographic information specific to Lake Wales. And you'll also note that there's a city limits map. Specific to demographics, population is on the upwards of 17,000. You'll see in terms of education, the high school graduation rate is pretty high, 86%, very high. With a bachelor's degree at 23.3. In terms of median household income, it's nearing 56,000, but the per capita income is heading towards 27,000, and persons in poverty is at 20.3%. Of note, it's not highlighted on this slide, but of note, the city of Lake Wales does own and have its own Lake Wales Municipal Airport, which is certainly an asset in the community. We've had contact with EDA and had discussions around some economic opportunities potentially within the airport. So that serves as an asset as well. In addition to that, City of Lake Wales has about 22 lakes. I'm looking at you, Dina, to correct me. 22 lakes and one canal. It has 3 higher education opportunities, and it does have its historic downtown. Next slide. This next slide, we're highlighting some area attractions specific to Lake Wales. So if you Google Lake Wales, a few of these are going to pop up. Some of these are a little faster speed than others. I enjoy Spook Hill. If you're in the area, go to Spook Hill. Some ghosts will push you down a hill, apparently. Have that Spook Hill was actually recently added to the historic registry. So take a look at that. You also have the Lake Wales Arts Council highlighted, the Lake Wales Museum, which is a very Instagrammable shot there. I think most people are aware that Bok Tower Gardens is within close proximity to the city of Lake Wales. You also have, which many people aren't aware of, the Florida Skydiving Center, which recently won an award, a nationwide award for formation, which is interesting. That is not my speed, but if you're interested, it is available for you. Something else that's my speed, the number of murals in the city of Lake Wales is pretty expansive. There are 11 murals. This one is my favorite, so I wanted to highlight it. I think that's what's taking place is a Saturday event, but I think the level of participation just speaks to the activation in the community. So we want to highlight these attractions. For the people who are on site today, take advantage of the attractions noted on this slide, particularly Spook Hill. Yeah, next slide. So getting into the Competitive Florida Partnership Grant, we engaged with the city of Lake Wales, as we do a number of communities to advance economic development and community development opportunities throughout the region. As it relates to the city of Lake Wales, we are engaged with them to prepare an action-oriented economic development strategy. So today you're going to hear a number of references to the amount of strategies that the city of Lake Wales currently has. I know I'm going to touch on the city's toolkit, and Dina Drungo is going to touch on the projects as well as some of the strategies. But I think the key thing here to remember is that with respect to this economic development strategy, the goal is to have a guideline or guidepost as it relates to economic development. That is not something that the city currently has, so we're going to take the opportunity to identify the community assets, advance some of the demographic data, and really hone in on some of the economic development opportunities that are specific to the city of Lake Wales. Next slide. And so here we've highlighted some of our project partners and some of the big ideas. This is some of the information that we've gathered on the onset of our outreach initiatives. We have done a lot of outreach with respect to the city of Lake Wales. We've done a ton of meetings, which I'll get into further in the presentation, but specific to the information that we have here today, we've engaged residents, business owners, local government, schools, landowners, the area chamber of commerce, economic development council. And some of the big ideas or big takeaways specific to what the city would like to see, bar none, is high skill, high wage job opportunities. And they want to find a way to retain the younger generation. What they're finding is that there's a large migration out of the city of Lake Wales, which is significant considering the number of higher ed opportunities specifically in the city. So they want to work through some of those issues. Interestingly enough, in the process of us engaging with the local government and engaging in the community, we decided to advance upon some of the metrics associated with the grant and partner with the charter school system to push out a survey. So we're targeting students to find out what they would like to see for the future of Lake Wales. So that's something that we sort of responded to in terms of the needs and what the city would like to specifically target in terms of gaining information from this particular strategy. Next slide. So this slide speaks to community identified assets. I'm not going to read the list. I'll target some very specific ones. So Highway 27 and US 60, rail. The city staff has been lauded throughout this process in terms of the responsiveness. The sheer amount of lakes, this is the city of Lake Wales. The small town feel, the potential for business attraction. In terms of the greatest challenges that were highlighted, advancing some economic development opportunities in the way of businesses honed into downtown, working on pedestrian friendliness, advancing educational opportunities. We talked about student retention, dealing with some of the economic disparities related to poverty in the community, and really targeting different age ranges in terms of services provided in the community. Next slide. In terms of stakeholder identified opportunities and big ideas, this again is something that was brought to our attention in terms of following up with a specific group. So what we did was we targeted the large landowners within the city of Lake Wales. And since we have a map here, it's not highlighted here, but you'll see that the larger landowners are, on the outskirts of Lake Wales city boundaries. But in terms of the greatest challenges, what was identified again, lack of quality jobs, investment in the youth, housing, private investment opportunities, buildings for businesses, specifically spec businesses, and the loss of citrus, which was identified in a grant application as well. Historically, the city of Lake Wales has leaned on the citrus industry in terms of economic development. And as you all are aware, the citrus industry is waning due to natural disasters, diseases, and freezing events. So the economic development strategy is going to address some of the concerns associated with that. As far as the big ideas, more industry, new businesses, targeted incentives, large scale development, a hardware store, because we all need one. Private investment and overall change. Change specific to welcoming businesses in the community. Next slide. So I alluded to this toolkit earlier as it relates to the amount of strategies that the city has on hand. And that just speaks to the city's desire to advance and be nimble as it relates to economic development. So you have Lake Wells Envisioned, Lake Wells Connected. A portion of the city is designated as an opportunity zone. They have a CRA plan, and the community is identified as a REDI community. But in this process, committed partners is the key here in advancing opportunities for the future. Next slide. So I do want to highlight our partners here: Florida Commerce, the City of Lake Wells, the Chamber, CFDC, the RPC, and the Main Street, who have been very active participants as we have moved through the process of getting information to advance economic development, specifically private investment opportunities in the City of Lake Wells. And certainly we thank you for your participation here today, those on site and virtually. Next slide. And so next steps, I alluded to this for those of you who came today and actually signed in. So today, there's a mapping exercise following this meeting. Yay, it's a field trip, everybody. We're going offsite and we're touring key assets in the community. Just to keep you on site, we have Merlin that we're gonna tour. We're gonna tour Kegel. We're gonna tour the Parks and Recreation assets in the city. And we're also gonna tour some quality of life in the city as well. So we're going downtown. I hope you brought your tennis shoes because we're gonna be hitting the pavement here today. That's specific to the mapping exercise that's directly following this event. But an additional next step is going to be our final community meeting that's to be announced, which is going to include the draft economic development strategy and allow for the community to provide us some input as relates to that. And so, Chris, I stand for any questions. Any questions on site? No. If there are any online, I'm happy to respond.
Yeah, anyone in the chat, if you want to have a question for Benicia, you can unmute yourself and speak up. All right, I think we'll borrow any questions that come up in the next 10 seconds or so. We'll move on. To already introduce myself, I am Chris O'Kelly with Florida Commerce. I'm director of our new Office of Rural Initiatives. You know, Benicia, I was thinking, you mentioned we had a field trip later today and we already took a roll. So I'm really feeling good about this. And you got like kind of the new guy, substitute teacher, like running this today. So, you know, whether you think you're in elementary school or at a REDI meeting, you know, I'll let you decide on that. So I mentioned our Office of Rural Initiatives. We started that this past November to better empower Florida's rural communities to achieve sustainable economic growth with a dedicated team to support rural areas. And this office is a partnership between our divisions of community development and economic development. You know, kind of a good example for this, some of you may already know of our Rural Infrastructure Fund and Job Growth Grant Fund. Those are each housed in, you know, community development and economic development respectively. But this office is, you know, kind of put in place to help break down those, you know, silos that are in place. That way we can get like straight to support in the communities and find a way to best serve them instead of, you know, them going to different parts of the agency. And through our department's leadership, we have committed to having a dedicated team member for each of the 3 rayos. So that means we're going to have someone in Northwest, North Central, and South Central rayos who will be dedicated to serving the needs of that rayo and those communities. And the office will be the continual point of contact for educating local communities about Florida Commerce and Florida Commerce programs that can help address any barriers to economic growth they are facing. And then just be in the community when there is a need for us to be present. You know, example of that is we've been in Taylor County a good bit this past year following Idalia and the mill closure that happened this past fall. Offerings of the Office of Rural Initiatives. First, increase awareness of Florida Commerce programs. This means educating the local stakeholders, those economic development professionals, business leaders, and community leaders about available opportunities. We'll provide technical assistance on our programs, and so that way the applicants can understand the programs and apply for them as best they can. Streamline the application process. This means simplifying and expediting our applications. Then assist on any regional and local economic development projects that align with Florida Commerce goals. Finally, facilitate engagement. We want to establish those local teams in the RAOs to partner with and engage with them and cut any red tape. So a lot of programs listed there. You don't have to read all of them, but one general point that I want to make here, and much the same as our agency leadership did at the FREDA conference this past year, almost all of our department programs are available. Both economic and workforce programs are available to rural communities, including the ones on the slide. You have the Rural Infrastructure Fund and small cities programs like Community Development Block Grant. Those are both amended a little bit by House Bill 1209 for the direct payment method this past special session. Then Florida Job Growth Grant Funds, a grant program for either infrastructure or workforce grants. Office of Broadband, I believe former REDI Director Extraordinaire Sean Lewis for their Office of Broadband is on the call and joining us today. I know a lot of you are familiar with him, and he's doing great things with broadband now. We have different planning grants like Competitive Florida. Anisha already touched on that, as well as community planning technical assistant grants. Any disaster recovery and emergency bridge loans for businesses that may need some funding after disasters hit their area. Tax credit and sales tax programs. Rural jobs tax credit is one for businesses to apply to if they're creating jobs in a rural area. And then the building materials sales tax refund, as the name states, sales tax refund on building materials used in new construction in one of our RAOs. For some of the larger businesses, we have, making significant investment in both jobs and capital. We have capital investment tax credit and high impact performance incentive, as well as some private activity bonds and Florida Opportunity Fund. For smaller businesses, we have the State Small Business Credit Initiative, which is a good way of getting some financing to those small businesses who need it. And then for any sites that need some type of mitigation in order to be ready, we have the Brownfield Redevelopment Bonus. And one more thing to mention on this, they're all kind of unique. I just did a really quick run through of them. For anyone who's here, I have a flyer in the back, both the one you see on the screen, as well as one that has a high-level overview of each program if you want to take those with you, just so you can have a better idea of the programs that Florida Commerce has. And all these things, they're different, they're unique in their own way, but they're all pretty much geared towards the goal of site readiness, which is really big in rural communities. That's something that makes them more attractive to businesses looking to move in, is when they have a site that is already ready for that business to move in. So Benicia already gave us a great example of a competitive Florida grant they're working on here in Lake Wales. And I just want to follow that up by giving a high-level overview of the program itself. Competitive Florida helps communities create and implement economic development strategies based on assets that make them unique. It offers grant funding and technical assistance to help those communities plan for and implement an economic development strategy by incorporating community input. Each community will need to undertake a community-driven approach to writing an economic development strategy that includes public engagement, and then planning and technical assistance can be provided by Florida Commerce throughout the year. And this grant is available to municipalities, counties, and regional planning councils. So how to apply, request for funding, it starts with a letter of request. This is specifically, what is the community seeking to accomplish by creating the economic development strategy? Has the community received a grant funded project in the past? What did that project accomplish, and were there any challenges involved with it? And who is dedicated to managing and leading this grant from start to finish? We have Central Florida Regional Planning Council leading the one in Lake Wales. How much time are they committing to the grant process? And how does the community plan to engage stakeholders? And then a description of any existing and community development activities. This can be something like a vision plan or any existing strategies that are already in place that you may be looking to build off of with the competitive Florida grant. Proposed scope of work. This is the deliverables, more or less. Deliverables are tasks to be performed. They're clear, meaningful, and feasible, and to have a feasible implementation component. You'll include the due dates, that the deliverables would be sent back to Commerce, and then as well as any documentation that you will use to show the deliverables are complete. So, there's community meetings are part of a lot of the competitive Florida grants. So we see things like, advertising flyers for it and sign-in sheets that show that the community meeting did take place. And then finally, the cost or payment for each deliverable. Request for funding should also include a budget that outlines any anticipated expenditures by category, as well as any letters of support received in support of the grant application. So some upcoming application cycles for Florida Commerce programs, competitive Florida and community plan and technical assistance grants. We're expecting to announce those, I think, within the next 4 to 6 weeks. So be on the lookout for that. For Florida Job Growth Grant Fund, the proposals for that are accepted on a rolling basis. I believe there's still some money left in the allocation this fiscal year. But then we do get a new funding cycle for that, a new allocation on July 1st at the start of the fiscal year. In Rural Infrastructure Fund, we also have an anticipated funding cycle for that coming next fiscal year, so stay tuned. All right, any questions for those online or in person? Nothing in the chat. And we will move on. Dina Drumgo, City of Lake Wales, is going to present next.
Good morning, again, Dina Drumgo, Assistant City Manager for the City of Lake Wales. Thank you for being here in person and online. I'm just gonna go over a few of the project highlights. The city has a lot of projects going on. I won't touch on all of them, but I'll touch on a few. So Venetia mentioned earlier plans. We have a bunch of plans, and when I talk about the projects, all of our projects will go back to either one or several of our plans. So we have a CRA district and we have a CRA plan, Community Redevelopment Agency, and we have a redevelopment plan that talks about the redevelopment that will address slum and blight within our CRA district. We also have Lake Wales Connected, which Venetia touched on. Our Connected plan is really a strategy to address the core of the city, our downtown area, as well as our Northwest community, which is our predominantly African-American community. So the Lake Wales Connected plan addresses city in a garden. You may have heard that term. The city of Lake Wales is trying to get back to our roots, to our founding fathers, the Olmsted brothers, and get back to a community in a garden where we are addressing the topography of Lake Wales, us being a crown jewel, getting back to that community in a garden concept. We have hired a horticulturist, which is new for a city of our size, but we're excited to have him. We stole him from another community. But we're excited to get back to that concept. As I mentioned, the Olmsted vision, getting back to that. Our Lake Wales Connected plan does have action items. So we have about 60 action items, and we just go through those action items and we check it off. We also have the Lake Wales Envision plan. So we have a Connected plan, we have an Envision plan. The Envision plan is more of a future growth plan to address conservation, things of that nature. And within that process of the Lake Wales Envision plan, the City Commission adopted a resolution to tackle 8 aspirations. We go to the next slide. I will show you the 8 aspirations that the community or the City Commission has adopted. And these are basically guidelines to help us address being strategic, being active, being thoughtful in the growth. As we all are experiencing growth, we want to make sure that we do that responsibly. So these 8 aspirations talk about our enduring our green network. The green network is similar to Winter Haven has the Sapphire Necklace addressing their lakes. This green network is about our open spaces and conservation and preservation of those open spaces. The city commission is about partnership with landowners, investors, and the community. Another aspiration is to make infill development and revitalization a priority for the community. Another aspiration is economic prosperity, and we have our EDC and chamber director in the audience. We also want to look at employment opportunities for the community and looking at mixed uses, diverse industries, as well as mixed land uses. One of the aspirations also talks about traditional neighborhoods. So Lake Wales is trying to get back to that traditional neighborhood where it's walkable, where you can step out on your front porch and see your neighbor, as opposed to the mini subdivisions. We have those, but we want to try to get back to the traditional neighborhood aspect of a community. Another aspiration is trying to discourage the urban sprawl. So getting back to that traditional neighborhood. And then lastly, transportation network. We will, as you'll see as we go along, our programs and projects all are related. We're trying to get back to connectivity, walkability, mobility for the entire community. So in the end, we want to have a community where you can use multimodal transportation to get from north, south, east to west. So we're taking steps to get to that. You can go to the next slide. So some of the projects, for those that will be joining us on a tour, you will see some of those. And for those not joining, we're going to talk about it. So our Northwest neighborhood, we're doing revitalization in that. As I mentioned earlier, it's the predominantly African-American community. We have some programs through our CRA to address affordable housing, down payment assistance. We have a rehab program for our senior population. And we are going out to bid for a sidewalk improvement project for the community. And then Benicia mentioned artwork. The CRA does fund public art each year for the CRA district. So you can see on the screen, there is in the middle picture, there is a picture of some of the mural work. This year, we're looking to do maybe something different than murals, maybe sculptures or ceramics, something else. We're talking with our Arts Council to kind of get some ideas of how we can partner with our Arts Council in developing art in the community. Transportation, we have a partnership, Benicia mentioned, committed partnerships. We're all about partnerships. One of those is the Citrus Connection Partnership, where we have a circulator that started, I want to say October of last year, and we already have about 500 to 600 monthly riders. We are going to start a pilot program with Citrus Connection for their squeeze transportation. It's an extended golf cart. That area will be in our downtown district to help with our, we have a construction project going on that I'll get into later. That'll help with transportation in our downtown area, but this will be a pilot program, the squeeze. And the city of Lakeland has it now, so we'll be the second city in Polk County to partner with Citrus Connections for their squeeze program. We have a business incubator in our Northwest district as well. We're excited about that because this will be our first incubator, if you will, in that community. And we have about 44 jobs that they have created in that area. So at the top picture, you see the ribbon cutting for Bisling, which happened the end of last year. And then where we are now, our Family Recreation Center. This was once operated by the Y. The city owned the building and the Y leased it out. The Y decided they did not want to continue that partnership. So the city decided to take it on, and now the city operates it. So if you want a tour of this building before you leave, we can arrange that. But that is something that we took over November of last year, and we have over 1,600 members already. So we're excited to have it back. The Y has been a great partner in the past, and the city residents were excited that the city took it on and didn't, farm it out or get rid of it. So we're excited about that. We can go to the next slide. Our trails, our parks and recreation system, we are very busy in that aspect. We have our consultant, Hale Innovations, in the audience. We are very aggressive when it comes to grants. And so we partner with Hale Innovation on just about all of these, but the Lake Wales Park, and yes, Wales is spelled with an I. There's some story behind it. But we have improvements going on in Lake Wales Park, which is our big park. Crystal Lake Park, which is across the street from Lake Wales Park. We have a linear park. That was a partnership with T-Mobile. We received a grant That park is across from our library. We have Kiwanis Park Loop, which is across from Lake Wales Park. We have, getting into the trail. I mentioned connectivity and mobility. We're trying to pursue these grants that will help with those, trail systems and that connectivity. So we have some, trail projects that we're working on. The Northwest Complex is in our Northwest community, and our soccer complex, which soccer is very big in Lake Wales, if you didn't know. So we need to expand that facility because it gets a lot of use. In regards to our streetscape projects, we have a project going on right now on Park Avenue, which is in the heart of our downtown, a $13 million project, streetscape, where we're putting pavers down on the ground. We're doing planters, light fixtures, whatever you can think of. We're doing it on Park Avenue to help enhance that, the look of it. So the long-term goal of our downtown is to make it pedestrian friendly or more pedestrian friendly as opposed to vehicle friendly. So we have had some kickback from members of the community saying, why is the street so small and the sidewalk is so large? It's because we're trying to get back to that aspect of it. So other streets. Yes, it in one of your other streetscape projects, as you see in the Northwest, some other streets in the downtown area. And most of these projects, going back to the partnerships, have been a combination of city funds, CRA funds, FERDAP funds, Florida Commerce. Like, we are always looking for ways that we can partner with other agencies to make our dreams come true. So you go to the next slide. And I know Benicia mentioned the airport earlier. With our airport, we partner with FDOT, we partner with FAA on grant opportunities. We're in the process of enhancing our fuel farm, upgrading that, so that should be done next month. And then we have a few projects that will be going out to bid next month as well. So, lastly, the historic hotels, which has been in the paper recently. I just want to touch on that because since we're talking about partnerships, if there's any way that we can partner on making these hotels come back to life, we are all about that and we can have a conversation about it. Our smaller hotel is the Seminole Hotel, which is down here. It's a 3-story building. We just put that out to RFP the end of last year. We thought we were going to have good feedback from that. We only had one bidder. And so we're going back to the drawing board. I think it's not on the historic registry, but it has historical significance for our community. So we are looking to see how can we revamp that building. Does it mean we demolish it, which some community members aren't in favor of? Or is there a way that we can save the structure and bring it back to life? So we're looking at those options. Like I said, if you have ideas, let me know. And then lastly, the Wales-built Hotel, which is the one in the top corner. This is the largest hotel that we have. They're both on the same street, on the First Street corridor. This is the one that gets a lot of attention. This is the one that was just recently in the newspaper because we are in litigation. The current property owner, we believe, did not do what they said they were going to do. They think they did, but we will find out. Hopefully soon, but we did receive the partial summary judgment last week or the week before from the judge. So we're hoping that it leans in our favor. We can get the building back and decide what we want to do with it. There has been talk of residential. There has been talk of a mixed use with residential and commercial. So we're not sure yet, but we're just hoping that we get the building back. And I think that is it. Yes. Sorry, I felt like I just ran through that really quickly. They only gave me 5 minutes. No, I'm joking. They gave me about 10, but you guys have any questions? Online, are there any questions or in person?
Yes, online if you want to unmute yourself if you have a question, or you can drop it in the chat.
And like I said, these are only some of the projects. We have a lot of utility projects going on. We have about 50 applications in our planning department in some level of development, either site approval or site review. So we are growing, we are very busy, and we appreciate any partnership that we can have. So, yes.
From an infrastructure perspective, I mean, I know that you probably have a lot of identified critical needs, but what is your number one infrastructure project that you would be looking for partnerships to fund?
Well, currently for our utilities, we partner with, through the state revolving fund. A lot of our, utility projects go through the revolving fund, but if there's a way where we can do grant money, like 100% grant money, that would be awesome. Yeah.
I have a response to that.
Uh,
Your airport.
Oh, airport, yes.
Yes.
Sometimes our airport gets neglected, but,
I'm here to remind you.
but Venetia's here to remind us. Yes, we have a lot of potential for our airport. The airport has almost 500 acres of space. We are going into, an agreement with, it's a company that wants to partner with us for sod. So that's a way for us to make income. They will do the sod on some of the blank areas that we have on the airport. But we are doing a taxiway enhancement. We're looking to do some T-hanger expansions and things of that nature. So, as I mentioned, we partner with FDOT and FAA. Some of those aren't always 100% funded. If there's ways that we can partner with other agencies, we're open to do that as well.
And I know Warren Davis raised your hand in the chat. Warren, if you want to unmute yourself, it looks like you already are. You can go ahead and ask your.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just, I heard you discussing grants in particular, and I also was interested in infrastructure grants that you might be pursuing, particularly those that are part of the infrastructure, the Federal Infrastructure Act, and whether or not you were working with your local workforce development board at all to see what other braided funding opportunities there might be for expanding economic development, particularly in the sphere of workforce. So I know that's vague. I know that's kind of wide open, and there might not be anything specific there. But anything you could offer is helpful and helps me report back to our leadership.
Okay, I'll try to answer the question. In the beginning of the presentation, we talked about the plans. What we did not have is an economic strategy development plan. So that's why we're partnering with CFTC and Florida Commerce to address the economic development aspect of it.
Great.
As far as infrastructure, I'm not aware of any grants that we're pursuing for that. I mentioned earlier the state revolving fund for our water and wastewater, but I'm not familiar with any grant opportunities at the moment.
Okay, great.
You did, if I might just chime in, we did recently have a meeting with EDA Greg Viday to talk about the possibilities of grant opportunities specific to your airport. So that's one.
There we go.
There we go.
That's why we keep the CIBC around, I mean, the RPC around.
Yeah.
One more question. Do you think you could talk about some of the home improvement that you've been doing in the Northwest District?
Yeah, so in our Northwest District, that's part of our CRA. We have a program where we provide rehab for seniors. So that may be a roof, that may be windows, outside facade kind of things. We help with the seniors in that community. We also partner with the Roosevelt Academy. They provide we have a landscape planter in the front, and the students help with putting plants in there, and we donate that as part of the rehab for the seniors. We also have affordable housing in our CRA district, affordable housing, down payment assistance for affordable housing in our CRA district. What else? We partnered with, we had a CDBG project that we're doing rehab as well. So that's another source of funding for rehab programs. We're in the process of working with Andy Easton on that. And that again is rehab for homes outside as well as inside as well. Anything that I'm missing? I think, yeah. Yeah, we're trying to address, because the CRA is about redevelopment and addressing slum and blight. So we want to make sure that we're addressing that with those tax dollars, TIF dollars.
Thank you,
for your
everyone.
time.
Yeah. And speaking for our presenters today, to everyone who's listening in, if you don't have a question now, I'm sure they're all welcome to hear them later, myself included. So if you have anything that comes up, over this week and you're thinking about the meeting, please feel free that you can reach back out to anyone who's presenting. So, moving forward, Denise with the development group.
Well, good morning. My name is Denise Grimsley. I'm the CEO of the Development Group located in Hardy County. And to tell you a little bit about the Development Group, we are actually a nonprofit entity, and we manage the Industrial Development Authority for Hardy County. So essentially, Hardy County outsources all their economic development to us. And I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about how we have changed our look at economic development in the last 2 years. We are redefining what that looks like. So typically we would have only focused on industrial type development, and we're starting to look at all aspects of economic development for the county. And this next slide is a picture of our team. So the only gentleman in the picture is Justin Smith. He's the COO. He oversees all of our operations, any of our building projects, anything that's going on there. He occasionally works on some grants. Sarah Evers there in the middle is the Chief Growth Officer. So she is responsible for bringing in new companies, going out looking for new companies, and then helping onboard them when they come into the county. Christy Sherling on the top left is our office manager, and then Kristen Chapman on the top right is our marketing director of marketing. Next slide. So this is our business park. We have a 200+ acre business park on Highway 62. It's about an hour from Seaport Manatee. It's right on Highway 17. And these are some of the businesses that we have brought into the business park in the last few years. Mock Connections is one of the bigger companies. It is a subsidiary of Correct Craft. Correct Craft is the manufacturer of the ski natique boat line. They have about 140 employees. And to put that in perspective, we have a 25-bed critical access hospital in the county that is operated by FN Health, and there are 149 employees there. So they're one of the bigger employees, the private employers. This particular site manufactures boat harnesses, and that goes into the ski natique boat line. Stream to Sea was a startup company that started up about 15 years ago. They are manufacturers of organic sunscreen. They have been recognized by Harper's Bazaar magazine as being the up-and-comer in organic sunscreen manufacturing. The CEO of that company is a diver. So she got her start by diving and seeing the chemicals that we put on our body to keep for sunscreen and what that was doing to the coral reef. And so she manufactured this special line. They are the official sunscreen of Virgin Cruise Lines. And just last week, she was recognized in Forbes magazine. So they are growing very rapidly. Florican is a company that manufactures the polymer coating on the outside of fertilizer that allows it to be time released. They also work with NASA on growing food in Mars, and they have been inducted into the Space Technology Hall of Fame. Aloha Medical Services is our newest company. We just broke ground on a building for them in the Commerce Park. They are a non-emergency medical transport company. You will most likely see them in Polk County at some point. They're over into Highlands. They came down. We recruited them down from a company in the north, and they will be moving all of their operations or their headquarters here, although they will still be operating in multi-states. Kenbro is they do a lot of things, but I think what they're most known for is they move utility poles around. And our involvement with Kenbro, they are not in the Commerce Park. One of the things that we do is we go out and we look for buildings that are vacant and try to determine how we repurpose those. They are in the old Peace River Electric Co-op building. And they have 238 employees all over the US, but 80 of those are in Hardy County. Rapid Systems is our internet service provider. They have been extremely important to us, especially in post-COVID, because we've learned how important that broadband connectivity is. We're at 96% coverage, and they've been instrumental in achieving that. Mancini Foods is a 100-year-old company, a manufacturing company of peppers located in Zolfo Springs. The family itself did some regrouping and some moving around of assets a few years ago, and the new part of the family that took over this company came to us in order to allow them to continue to operate. And they had a historical significance for us. So we purchased their building. We did a lease option purchase back to them, and they have about 75 employees. They are back in Publix. They are very big in the Northeast and the Connecticut area, and they're rapidly growing throughout the United States. And Innovar Structures is another company that manufactures tiny homes. They're cargo containers. They also do offices. They do apartments, and they're quite innovative. Next slide. And what we have expanded out, about 2 years ago, we went through strategic planning and we started looking at the bigger picture of what economic development looks like. So up until that time, we had not done anything downtown. This R Riveter building is not complete yet. This is the rendering of it. The 3 buildings to the right have been completed, but this one on the left is still a work in progress. And I imagine in Lake Wales, you probably run into this when you're doing historic buildings. Many times you get into it, and we joke sometimes that it is a money pit, but you find things that you don't know. And so this last building, in fact, I'm looking at Nancy because Duke helped us move a utility or a power line that was in the way over the top in order to get this last refurbishing done. But when the contractors went in to put in the windows on that second floor, they realized that the front of the building facing Main Street is bowing out a bit. And so there's a structural issue. So we are back in there with a structural engineer trying to fix that. Long term, we know we're not going to be able to use that second floor, and which is okay, but we're working on the facade to get it fixed. So it does look like this at the end of the day. We have partnered with a company downtown. Utilitech is a company downtown that manufactures software products for FFA, 4-H, all through the United States. And he has chosen to take a second building that we have, and he's creating a soda shop and bakery. Now, we had issues with that too, because next door, the CRA, or actually it was Main Street, Wauchula, had purchased an old hardware store next door to it. So just as we finished the soda shop and bakery and they are ready to move in, the hurricane came through and the Main Street Wauchula's building flooded the bakery. So we wound up, so Main Street had bought it, not the CRA. So Main Street was out of funding. So we wound up buying the building from Main Street, and we're doing a partnership with them there. And we have the soda shop and bakery back up almost ready to move back in. And housing is another piece we're doing downtown, and I'll show you some more of that as we get through. But to Dina's point, it's your downtown is the center point of your community, and making that more walkable and more friendly and bringing more people downtown is the key. And property acquisition, we actively look for blighted properties that we can go in and repair and bring back up for another purpose. So how are we doing that? So we're doing this. Let me tell you a little bit about Quint Studer. Quint Studer, so I spent 32 years in the hospital industry. Quint Studer, I know very well. He was instrumental in creating patient satisfaction surveys when those came about a few years ago. He moved into Pensacola and found that Pensacola's downtown was actually moving backwards. He gathered up a citizens initiative and they started working on downtown. These are a few things that he did. He brought in Jim Clifton, who I know you've heard of Gallup surveys, brought Jim Clifton in to do some surveys of the residents of the county and the city, determine what it is that they wanted to see. And then he recruited a manager that he knew could do the work and get that done. So this is the blueprint that he uses. So I brought one today. I think you need one. I know you'll be all about that. You'll stay up all night and read that book. If anybody else wants it, I'm happy to let you have it. And then these are easily found on Amazon, and we buy them all used because we've graduated now 5 classes from Building a Vibrant Community series. We do a 6-week series. We go through this, and it's been really good to it because it's not anything that we all know. We all know everything that's in this book. But when you're bringing in people from different areas and they start talking and they start changing ideas, and then they start to think, we can do something here. Because my whole life I've heard it, you can't do it in Hardee County. You can't do it in Lake Wales because it's Lake Wales, because it's Wauchula. You're never going to have that here, but we can have that here. We just have to work toward it. So we talk about many things: civic engagement, the vibrant downtown, education, healthcare, housing, and infrastructure. All of those things matter when it comes to recruiting companies in that pull revenue in from outside of the county. Next. Unless it freezes.
There it is.
There you go. So civic engagement is what I was just talking about, one of the biggest things. And I always give kudos to the city of Wauchula because they've been using social media. For example, about 2 years ago now, we put in our first roundabout. What you would have thought that was like some big deal. But when you think about it, there were probably people there that never leave the county and they didn't know how to draw on a roundabout. So John Easton, who's the assistant city manager, and he was the chief of police at the time, went out and did a video and just showed people how you do the roundabout. And they've been doing a lot of things with code enforcement. We're finding in our Building a Vibrant Community series that people care about code enforcement. They're silent. You go into communities where you think, well, there's a lot of apathy, and there is, but when you start talking about it, you realize that they do care about it. And they're happy to know that somebody else cares about it. So then it starts happening. They were educating the residents on the role of the cities, the role of the county, and we talked about video education. So next. So this is a picture of our downtown. So Main Street Heritage Park is the middle of downtown, and it teaches you in this book to work in circles. So we are working out from there. There's a apartment complex there, the yellow building there on the left. That is one that we did a partnership with the CRA a few years ago and got those apartments brought online. But these are some of the things that we talk about. It attracts visitors. It keeps our people at home on Friday night. They don't go to Lakeland. They don't go to Fort Myers. They don't go to wherever. They stay home and they utilize our businesses. We recently had a hotel developer look at the downtown, and he said, okay, stand right here and look at this. You need 7 restaurants. How many do you have? And I said, really? I mean, we have like 28,000 people in the county. Are you sure? He said, no, you're not thinking big enough. He said, you need to think about how many people are within a 30-minute radius of that property. I said, about 300,000. He said, that's your target market. You're not just targeting to your locals, you're targeting outside. So we have 3 restaurants, and we're working on adding additional restaurants. Also, Dina talked about it earlier, the mix of commercial, retail, office, and restaurants. You want to make your downtown more walkable. I would love to close this street to traffic and put those, I forgot what you call them, but the architects always draw them in our renderings where they, like you take a parallel spot and you put, like, the Java Cafe has a seating area out in there, and it's got landscaping around it, and it's really beautiful. But we'll get there. We just haven't got there yet. We're still trying to get our people to think bigger. Next. Education is also extremely important. We're finding that talent by far surpasses any financial incentive that we can give for companies coming in. We partnered with the Education Foundation and moved some of our money over to that a few years ago. So they are fully funded at $8 million. They awarded this year 12 reverse scholarships. We use that as a recruitment tool. So if you agree to live in Hardee County for 5 years and you have completed a degree or a technical program within the last few years, you can get all of that money back over a 5-year period. And that's the incentive that we are trying to get people to live there. Our high school graduation rates, they are going backwards. They were 93% last year. They are 84.5 in 2021, and 80 in 2022, they're 84.5. You know, we've asked the school district, you know, why? And there's a lot of reasons they'll give us, and a lot of it goes back to COVID. But, you know, our Building a Vibrant Community series is saying, we don't want to know why. We want to know what's your plan to go forward, because we have to produce that talent in order to keep industry coming in. The voluntary pre-kindergarten participation rate is 60.7, but which is a little bit higher than the state average. But if you look at the kindergarten readiness scores, they're only 42%. So something's going on in that early childhood education that needs to be improved. And we're trying to look into that and figure out what that is. Now, on the bottom, and that pulled this out of Quint Studer's book, how many words does a baby need to hear? He's got a lot of information in there because principals are really focused on early learning for children. Because the more they hear, you know, and you've all had kids and grandkids, they're like little sponges. So the more they hear and the more you can teach them, the better off they will be when they become a high school senior. If we don't improve that, those graduation rates will continue to go down. Healthcare. So to the left of this picture is the new hospital that was built in 2017. Then here is our new roundabout on the right. And then this piece right here is a private developer, but they would like to develop that, and we would like to move all of our healthcare offerings into that area. To the right of the roundabout is more property as well. And right behind there is the traditionally African-American community that we had a great meeting yesterday talking about how we start pulling all of that area together and having a focus and bring everything up to where and Highway 17 is the view corridor. So everything looks very nice from when you drive through town. This is the northbound Highway 17 lane. But the one thing we do not have is we do not have one physician that lives and practices in our community. And that is one of our #1 goals, to achieve a physician that lives there. We have a lot of nurse practitioners. We have a lot of physician assistants. Advent Health has an offering. Advent Health has purchased 2 more lots in this development for a medical office building. We just recently did a survey of the county. And one thing that the residents said is, we want more specialists. We need more specialists here. And so we're working through that. We have had some early conversations with a couple of physicians that want to build an ambulatory surgery center here. And we've also had conversations with multiple assisted living facility operators, but probably the most promising one just happened a couple of weeks ago. And they also have skilled nursing facilities and hospice houses. So that's the development area there. Thanks. Housing has also been extremely important. For the last 2 years, we started looking at our FEMA housing study that was done in 2005 after Hurricane Charlie. We looked at the master plan of the county. We had USF come in and do a housing study, and we realized that more housing was being torn down than was being built. And we looked at, we've got a great new county manager. He's not really new anymore. He came from the city. He's not new anyway. He came from the city, and he's been at the county now for almost a year. And he's really, really focusing on that expedited permitting process. We didn't receive, but Hardy Health Center received $1 million last year and $500,000 this year in the budget. They purchased a new property for Hardy Health Center, and they're going to use that $500,000 to renovate and start working on a homeless shelter at that location. Mental health housing, we have not tackled yet, but the idea is to co-locate that with Hardy Health Center and the homeless, and do that with Tri-County Human Services. And when they come in and do mental health housing, they co-locate a family practice physician as well as a psychiatrist or a psychologist on site, and all of those things will work together. Through a land development or local development agreement with Hardy County and Mosaic, our office has just received 90 some odd acres of property on Bostic Road, which is in the Torrey community by South Florida State College. And we are now working on a development of 98 homes in that area. And then there is a future potential housing development next to it. The county itself just purchased 34 acres to rebuild the jail, the sheriff's office administration building. The crisis, we got money for a crisis stabilization unit that Tri-County will be operating. That will all be there. A new fire station. And on that property, the sheriff would like to do some first responder type housing that he could then offer as a recruitment tool. And we could also use that as recruitment for some other first responders. I always say infrastructure is not a sexy topic, but if you don't have your water and sewer, it's a problem. Then it becomes very important. Our office funds a lot of that. And to tell you a little bit about how we get our money, we get our money through another local, so we have several local development agreements between the county and Mosaic, and that comes to us for specific types of economic development, but infrastructure being one of them. Green space recreation, and we've learned that amenities are extremely important. For example, we had a company, an industrial company, ready to come in about a year ago, and they, at the end of the day, they declined because the CEO said, my wife won't live there because there's not a Publix. So we've been working really hard on our infrastructure with our roads. And so VTOR was part of this a few years ago. We're trying to enhance that Highway 17 corridor. We've been working with them on Highway 62. Like I told you earlier, we're an hour from Seaport Manatee. We've commissioned a study on creating an inland port in the county, but it would, we've asked DOT to look at 62, expanding on out to go over to Highlands County. And all of those things all kind of pull together. But this company would have gone in the business park and he was like, you had a great financial package, but it's just, she's not gonna come. And you know what they say, happy wife, happy life. We're not doing it. And it reminded me of a study I saw about United Airlines. It was in another state. And they were trying to expand out into a different county within that state. And at the end of the day, again, it was a great financial package. And the county went back later and said, well, why did you not choose us? And he said, frankly, we couldn't see ourselves living there. So we know that it's extremely important to clean up that view corridor. When you drive into town, when you drive into Bowling Green, it's not pretty. SOFO is cleaning up when you're driving from the south. They're working very diligently on it. And then we're trying to clean up Wauchula. Again, through code enforcement, alleviating some of those blighted areas, and then adding more amenities that people will want to choose from. Manufacturing, we're still extremely focused on this. I mean, this is our number one thing that we do, but these are 4 industries that we think are good fits for our business park. And that's clean energy, it's food and beverage, medical supply and device, and textile. We're currently working, we've asked for a grant from Department of Commerce to bring in a surgical glove manufacturing company. We're competing with Texas. And we feel good about our application, so we're waiting to see, because it's typically what we do is we will go into the business park, we will build a facility, we will lease it to the company coming in. We take 7% of our investment price, we lease it to them, we give them a option to purchase, and depending on how many jobs they create, they could get a 25% credit, a 50% credit, or even 100% credit if they're large enough. But this particular company is more capital than we have on hand. So that's why we had to go to the state to ask for money. So we're waiting on that. And then textile, our Riveter, you saw the picture of downtown. That is a company that manufactures handbags. They got their start on Shark Tank. They are frequently, you see them on QVC or Home Shopping Network, and they employ Army spouses or military spouses all over the United States. And maybe one section is making, the, what do you call it? The straps or the buckles or whatever. And then they ship them into Wauchula and they put the bags together and then ship them out. Next. And again, focusing on being business friendly, we've developed several partnerships. We've done a lot of things with the Chamber of Commerce. We've created focus groups on education, healthcare. Yesterday, we had one on, it's called an athletic focus group. It's 5 individuals that care about what sports look like in the high school and how we bring them up to the next level. And we we started a CEO support group. So we have CEOs come in, we bring in special guest speakers and we talk about, and they share ideas. And fairly recently, the lady from Stream to Sea I was telling you about was talking to Mancini, and he was able to connect her to Publix to see if she can get her product in there. So it's been really good. We have a new college president at South Florida State College, and he comes from the legislature. I worked with him. He was a county commissioner in Osceola County at one time, and he's doing amazing things. And we're just very happy with what we've done or what we're doing next. This year, this is our inaugural annual meeting. We've never done this before. So Bill Yergin on the left is the CEO of Correct Craft. He spoke recently in Tallahassee at the Economic Club of Florida on the culture of economics, and he's going to come do that same speech. He's also an author. He wrote the book, let me think of it, The Education of a CEO and Education of a Traveler. And there's 3 or 4 other books you can find of his on Amazon. And Kristen probably will be mad at me today, Venetia, because I probably should have brought some of those books because he shipped in a boatload of them to us and we're going to be giving them away at the meeting. But we're going to, this is our way of, again, bringing the community back together to remind them that, yes, we can do this. We can do we can have the amenities. We can have a diversified economy and we can have everything that everyone else has. And then this is our last slide. This is the 5 pillars that we came up with in our strategic planning: housing, healthcare, talent supply and education, transportation and infrastructure. And then finally, recreation and tourism is something I didn't do a slide on, but we're working really closely with the county on. We have parks, we have Pioneer Park, we have Hardy Lakes. They just received an appropriation from the legislature this year to enhance Pioneer Park because Pioneer Park is on our view corridor. It's from 17 and 64. That's your east and west traffic corridor. And we really want that to be much nicer than it is. And last year, Rotary started a watermelon festival, which I was amazed at how many people came. And because it's in the perfect location. They had the Bellamy Brothers do a concert on Friday night and it was packed out. And then this year, I can't remember the guy's name, but he sings, I like my women a little on the trashy side. He's pretty popular. And I don't know how they're advertising that this year, but they're expecting again. And then that's on Friday night. And then on Saturday, they have vendors and things. And we're also doing a lot of things downtown with vendors, and we're happy. We're extremely happy. We think we live in the best place ever. And we are working diligently to improve it. And Dina talked about urban sprawl. We're one of the last counties to be able to be noticed with the growth that's going on, the explosive growth in Florida. And we think that's a good thing because it's allowed us to plan what goes where. We've also asked for money for a corridor study, and we're wanting to learn how to do it, to do an overlay zone on the view corridor for beautification purposes. And this study will help us determine what businesses go where, how do we market them, how do we incorporate housing into that piece. And there may be one more slide because yes, this is the rendering of, this is called Gardens at Midtown. So the yellow buildings on the right, that is Main Street. You can see the little circular water fountain there. That's Heritage Park that I talked about earlier. But behind those buildings, everything on that block was blighted. So we were able to go in and purchase where you see these homes, these townhomes. We were able to purchase that. We're partnering with the CRA to do a parking lot in there. And we're currently working on the street parking aspects of it right now. But these are several townhomes. There are some 3-story, there are some 2-story. The 3 stories are designed to the first floor will either be, you could use it if you just live there as a parlor type thing to greet your guests when they come in, or you could convert that to some kind of space if you wanted to work at home. There's garages entering from the back, and we're really excited about this. This is our conceptual drawings that we just got. Across the street on the bottom left-hand corner is the old Palmetto Clinic. It was a hospital at one time, but that's just been partially redone by a dentist, but he's now thinking about selling it. So that's also going to be some mixed use there as well. to the top, to the right over there where you see that vacant lot, we really want a parking garage. That's one of the things that the city would like to do there. So we're getting there. Top right-hand corner, the blue building is a new apartments as well. And to the left of that is Giovanni's Italian restaurant.
Woo!
So, yeah, like that one. So we are, diligently working, and again, we think Hardy County is the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And if you haven't been, we'd love to show you around. So I'm happy to answer any questions. And I also brought flyers for our annual meeting if anybody would like one. I'll put them at the table.
Any consideration of building substance use transition housing for inmates potentially?
Well, that would be part of the Tri-County program that I talked about. When we get down the road with the homeless shelter, they're doing one here in Polk County. It's called Jersey Commons. It will be something similar to that. And they co-locate the physician, the family physician, and the psychologist. And because homeless so much is talented, it made sense to try to put them with the Hardy Health Center.
You mentioned the potential for corridor study. Would that be like for the facility that you have requested or for the?
We asked for a grant for that through the EDA. And so we think we should hear on that any day.
But which corridors?
It's Highway 17 and 64.
Okay.
So the 64, the intersection there in Zoffo that I touched about, but it would be county line to county line on 17. And there's some resiliency pieces of that study as well from the flooding in the hurricane. And there's also a little bit of a housing piece in there.
Well, we'll follow up. I think we can collaborate.
We'd love to collaborate. You guys have been great partners. I mean, I can't say enough good things about you. I'm just sorry you got, pushed away a few years ago, but well, timing wasn't right, but the timing's right now.
Anyone online have anything? Cindy Rodriguez wanted to let you know you did a great job, so pass that along while we're waiting.
Denise, did you want to talk about some of the impacts of the hurricane?
Flooding, bad flooding in Zoffo and maybe it's just because I see Zoffo because I live outside of town. But the Peace River, I think it crested at 22 feet, I believe, something like that. And it flooded areas I've never seen flooded before. I think of the name of that RV park. It's Thousand Trails on Highway 17. When I drove in the first day we were able to drive in, there were $1 million motorhomes that it was like that much of them sticking out of the top. And I wondered why in the world didn't they drive those things out of there? But I'm guessing that they may have been somewhere else and they had just left it there because most everybody had vacated. There was an RV park right on 64 close to there that the owners wound up selling because everything was just demolished. And there was a bridge that was out on Highway 64 going out toward Bradenton, just totally washed out. And I'm amazed at how quick DOT and the county got that back up and going. I mean, it was relatively quick. I thought it might be out a couple of years, but it's back going, but and that's what we, the county wants to understand in this corridor study is how we mitigate those types of things going forward.
All right, I don't see anything in the chat, so thank you very much, Denise.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, we'll move into a little bit of legislative wrap up, and I'll start off giving some notes from the commerce side on some items from session that affected the agency, and then if anyone else wants to jump in and let us know if there's anything that you think is worth mentioning to us about what happened in session and how it impacted your agency. So start off House Bill 141 from Representative Abbott. This bill removes the matching requirement for our regional rural development grant program. And this is the grant program that helps fund regional economic development organizations. So I know they were really excited to have that match requirement removed. Rural Infrastructure Fund, we did receive 20 million in funding for fiscal year 25 for that program, with 5 million specifically to Hurricane Michael impacted counties. And I should note The total funding for this current fiscal year was 25 million. So this is a $5 million reduction to the program. Competitive Florida going into fiscal year 24-25 also took a reduction. This one of about 214,000 was what the grant program was reduced by. Some good news was the relaunch of the Rural Enhancement Toolkit Pilot Program. This was a former EFI program. It's now being funded at 600,000 with a laser focus on site development in its new form. One thing to note here, this one from those really kind of came out of the FREDA conference this past year. There was a lot of conversations with rural communities there who weighed in on the issue, saying they wanted the program to be brought back now that Enterprise Florida is wrapped up into commerce. So hopefully this is a tool we can build on moving forward. Then finally, Job Growth Grant Fund, funded at 75 million for fiscal year 24-25. And although this one is not exclusive to our rural communities, you can see last week we had Smohoney, Madison, and Taylor all government announced they all received awards. So there is a heavy emphasis on rural for that program. And that is all I have from the commerce side. If anyone here or in the chat has anything they want to present on, now would be the time. All right. If anyone thinks of anything as we're going through and wants to move back, please let me know and we can move back to this topic. But we'll move on to new community prospects and requests for assistance. This one's completely open-ended. I have nothing to present on it. So if anyone wants to jump in, either here in Lake Wales or in the on the Teams meeting, now is your time.
Lake Wells is requesting assistance, and so is Hardin County.
Yes. Yes. All right, we will go to our REDI organization announcements. If no one has any requests for assistance, if you think of anything as we're going through, please feel free to jump back in. You just unmute yourself in the chat, or you can raise your hand or write something in there and I'll address you. But to start organization announcements, I'll kick it off from the Florida Commerce side. Our secretary asked, that I mentioned last year, they did a trip to some of our rural communities and then want to invite you as well. So last year they did before the holiday season. And this was, again, as a result of the FREDA Summit as a follow-up to it. Some leadership from Florida Commerce. They did a 5-county tour to Putnam, Bradford, Baker, Columbia, and Suwannee counties. And specifically in each county, they visited sites where either Florida Commerce, one of our partner agencies, or the governor had invested in site readiness, site development. And it was a great opportunity for them to see the communities through the eyes of the local economic development professionals and see what they're working with. And because it was such a helpful experience for them, they are looking at doing another rural tour, this time into Heartland counties, such as Hardy and Okeechobee. I think they're working with already. And it's looking like it's going to be the week of April 8th. So here's the invitation. If anyone is interested in joining, or if your leadership is interested in joining on that trip, please reach out to me. We'd be happy to work on that.
Chris, quick question. In terms of the site for the April 5th event, has all of the sites been nailed down?
Yeah, they're still working on it.
Oh,
they're still working on it. Yeah, I can let you know as we develop it for sure. And I know for organization announcements, I think Allison with FDOT, you had mentioned that you wanted to speak on something. Go ahead.
The first is that my colleague Jennifer Carver, she wasn't able to be here this week, but she's working on the rural and non-metropolitan transportation planning survey. That email was sent out on March 5th. The survey closes on March 20th. If you haven't gotten that survey or would like to look at that survey, we're looking for suggestions and innovative ideas for improving transportation planning processes in areas that are not included in NPO boundaries. So please reach out to me or Jennifer Carver either at this meeting or afterwards. Chris has my contact information. The second announcement is that this year, we're excited to have the Transportation Planning Exchange in person for the first time since 2018. And that's FDOT's Premier Planning Exchange Conference. It's going to be held in St. Petersburg at the Hilton Bayfront on May 7th through 9th. And we're excited that this is the first time we're partnering with Florida Puerto Rico District of ITE to host this conference. So it's going to be really exciting. We're talking supply chain, resilience, planning, active transportation, all kinds of great stuff. So if you want more information about that, it's on our website. It's also on ITE's website, and registration is now open. And then the third announcement is that I heard a lot of talk about grants, and our office does handle the federal discretionary grants for the department, but we also can supply letters of consistency for communities. So if that's something that your community is interested in, each FDOT district has a grant coordinator. So please reach out to them and they can coordinate with us on getting those letters to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Allison. We can for sure help sending that out to everyone. And Andrew Hayes with USDA, I believe you also reached out saying you wanted to talk during this time, so you can unmute yourself and let us know what you want us to know.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Chris. I'm Andrew Hayes. I'm the USDA field representative for our telecommunications program in the rural development mission area. And we've got we've got a grant program that's open now. It's our distance learning and telemedicine grant program. A lot of you are probably already familiar with that. We have it every year, and we've been having it every year for past 30 years. But for those of you who don't know, that's basically where we fund, it's up to $1 million per application to fund hardware and software and installation primarily to rural medical clinics, hospitals, public schools, that kind of thing. And also we put equipment in more urban hub sites, and the purpose is to do kind of a FaceTime live interactive session, either with distance learning or medicine, where the rural resident can stay in their local community and get access to educational medical benefits that otherwise they'd have to drive long distances to get. So we're currently accepting applications through grants.gov. The deadline is April 29th. And if you get on our website, and the address is kind of long, but if you just search on USDA distance learning, it should take you right to our website. There's different tabs on the website. If you go to the events tab, you can register for a webinar that's coming up on March 27th. We also just had a webinar this past Wednesday, and will be the PowerPoint presentation is already up on our website, and we'll be uploading the video of that as well in the near future, in case you don't have time to sit through the hour-and-a-half webinar. They're from the one on the 27th is from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. And if you have any questions on that, you can let me know. I'm at andrew.hayes, Hayes, at usda.gov. Also, we have our Reconnect Loan and Grant broadband program that's open now. The deadline for that is May 21st. And that's for bringing high-speed internet to rural areas that don't currently have it, so I am not the person for that. Unfortunately, my co-worker that works in the Reconnect program couldn't be on the call, but if you email me or call me, I can refer you to her, and she's Jessica Hamilton. And my phone number is 770-312-7073. But I can also, Chris has that information too, if you're not writing that down. But again, it's the DLT grant program and the Reconnect broadband program are both open and accepting. Well, actually, The broadband program won't be accepting applications until the 22nd. So that's when the window opens to start submitting them, and the deadline is the 21st. For the DLT program, we're already accepting applications, and the deadline is the 29th, April 29th. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. That's a lot of good stuff, and I know you already sent me an email on it, so I'll be sure to help forward that along to anyone who's looking for your contact information or couldn't write everything down as you were going through.
Yeah, it's a lot of information, so sorry.
Absolutely. Thank you for presenting, though. It's good to hear it both audibly and then see it visually in the email. Anyone else in the room have anything? Anyone else online?
Yeah, hey, Chris, it's Greg Viday with EDA. I just introduced myself again, the Economic Development Rep for the state of Florida. Just a couple of quick announcements. We just came off a long series of engagements with nine counties in the Big Bend region. That's related to our FEMA mission assignment to provide economic recovery support for Hurricane Idalia impacted communities. We traveled with our federal partners and our state friends at Florida Commerce. So thank you very much, Chris, for joining us on those activities. We are rapidly trying to finalize the grant applications. Denise, I know you're patiently waiting, so I appreciate that. And Jennifer, you folks are patiently waiting. So we're trying to work as quickly as we can to finalize all those grants that folks are waiting for under the FY23 disaster supplemental, Hurricane Ian in particular. And then the last thing that I just want to mention too is that Congress in its first batch of actions appropriated funds for EDA for FY24. We are working through that appropriations process, and I expect we will be probably announcing some NOFOs or notice of funding opportunities for our regular programs in terms of FY24 in the not too distant future. Please reach out to me with any questions, and very happy to be here today and looking forward to participating in person in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Diane and Warren, you both have something. Diane, if you want to go first, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to let everybody know that FREDA, the Florida Rural Economic Development Association, will be having a retreat and a planning session for the 2024 FREDA Rural Summit not this coming week, but the next week. And that I want everybody to know that the dates of that 2024 summit will be November the 20th through the 22nd, and that's the week prior to Thanksgiving this year. As far as other things that the North Florida Economic Development Partnership is engaged in, there's a lot of effort through some grant funds we have received that we are redoing our NFEDP website in order to enhance our marketing efforts for our counties, 10 of which were impacted by Hurricane Idalia. And it was felt like it was very important to help the rest of the world know that these counties are still open for business and their coastlines are active, whether it's in aquaculture or tourism. And we think that's really one way that we can help those counties. We also have another marketing initiative that we're doing, and we are identifying through Victor Leota's firm the top priority property within each one of the 14 counties, and developing a site profile as well as what the NAICS codes would be best to attract a project and recruit them. And it's quite a it's quite a challenge in many ways when you have really small counties like Union and Lafayette that don't have a lot of available land. So we think it's going to be very much worthwhile and help these rural counties to recover economic wise. And that's about it.
Thank you. Real quick, Diane, did you say where the FREDA conference is this year and when registration?
I meant to say so. It will be at the World Equestrian Center, which is in Ocala, but it is a rural environment. It is extremely upscale, so don't have just a horse farm pop in your mind and think that's where we're going. It is top notch. That's actually where the retreat is going to be held in the planning session so that others can see it, because our office is the one that actually does most of the event coordination and implementation. And we're familiar with it, but it's going to be there so others, and Denise, I think, is going to be there as well, but it should be, a very good experience.
Thank you, Diane. And when does registration open up for it?
Probably not for, I know they have made most of the arrangements for the lodging itself, but it's probably going to be sometime in April. I don't think it will be this month.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll steal on from Senator Simon. We were in Orlando last year, and that was the first FREDA conference I was able to attend. He said that, we're having a rural economic development conference and there's no sweet tea at the hotel. So we're really excited to get back, not necessarily rural county, but into Ocala that feels, a little closer to the roots. Warren, I told you you're next, and then we'll go in person. Go ahead, Warren. Can I mute Warren, you're muted. You're muted.
Thanks so much, Christopher.
Thank you.
I just wanted to kind of give a short introduction and talk a little bit about some of the initiatives and projects going on within the workforce system. It's been several years since I attended a REDI meeting in person. I've attended most of them virtually, and of course during lockdown and quarantine and all that, I attended them in my pajamas and in the comfort of my own house. But I just wanted to assure everyone that CareerSource Florida, and of course our, with our partnership with Florida Commerce, we are engaged in what's happening with particularly rural areas, economic development and workforce development. Some of you probably don't know me. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you in person, Christopher. But of course, CareerSource Florida provides support to the State Workforce Development Board. I'm the dedicated policy analyst for our workforce programs development team. That means we essentially work with Florida Commerce and our local partners and our state Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act partners to develop policy for the workforce system, both strategic and administrative policy, and then to enact and implement that policy. My other main role is collaborating with all of our core and unified partners on the State Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act plan. As many of you know, the state has to present a plan and get approval from the U.S. Department of Labor every 4 years, and then tweak or update that plan and its performance objectives every 2 years. So that's the major role that I play here. Our board and our leadership team and our partners, particularly with the Governor's Reach Act, have been well involved and invested in workforce system transformation across the state for over a year now. We've been working closely with consultants to enact or to deploy the specific tenets of the REACH Act. And part of this workforce system transformation includes the consolidation of local workforce development areas from 24 workforce development boards down to 21 local workforce development boards. That process is ongoing, but we anticipate it being complete at the end of this fiscal year. In addition, the REACH Act calls for regional planning, and that's the formation of multiple boards working together to form regions in addition to their local areas. 2 regions have already been established amongst contiguous workforce development boards. That happened in February. We just received notice from the governor that that was approved last week. And so we are continuing to establish regional boards between now and the end of this fiscal year. The next part of workforce system transformation that's important and would appeal, I think, to this group are system-wide improvements that we are enacting across the workforce system. Some of those come in the form of policy. Some of those also come in the form of updates and pretty innovative and exciting changes to the statewide Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act plan. For some years now, we have been involved or we've been engaged in a unified plan which brings together the State Workforce Development Board, our partners with Florida Commerce, the Department of Education, Division of Career and Adult Education, Vocational Rehabilitation, and the Division of Blind Services. We've laid the foundation for a combined plan, and with the help of the REACH office and other partners, we are on the way to implementing Florida's first WIOA combined plan, which will bring together a more cohesive partnership with our allies at the Department of Children and Families, including the SNAP ENT programs, the TANF ENT programs. Some of you may be familiar with the Hope Florida Initiative, which is a project under the leadership of the First Lady of Florida. We're also working directly with the Department of Elder Affairs and some other partners to bring together, as I said, a more cohesive and seamless workforce development system that aligns all of our initiatives with all of our core and combined partners. So that's a lot to digest. I've mentioned some of these things in the past. I mentioned them again here because anybody who's been part of the REDI group at the same time I have will probably recall I do a report out on the state of the workforce system and the plan every 2 years or thereabouts, and it's just kind of a rolling thing. We're trying to do this, we're trying to do this, and here we are now, really engaging in transformation and looking forward to when the workforce system is actually and compellingly transformed. There's a lot of information out on our website about the workforce system transformation. We've devoted a whole section to what this actually means, the pillars that are involved in that concept, the work that's been done to date, and what is left to come. We also have out right now the draft version of the 2024 to 2028 Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act combined plan. There's some specific elements in there that are probably of interest to state and local partners. I would particularly point folks to sections 2 and 3, which include the objectives and goals and vision for the state workforce system, and then also the agricultural outreach plan and description of the Wagner-Pizer program is usually of interest and importance to this group. So I'll leave that there, and if anybody ever has any questions, feel free to contact me at wdavis@careersourceflorida.com. I particularly want to provide that point of contact as I am I've been representing our team on REDI for some time now. Actually, our vice president is the designee, and when he's unavailable, I sit in on the meetings. And for the foreseeable future, I will probably be in most meetings as he is scheduled to depart our organization in the coming weeks. So if anybody needs anything or has information to share or wants to share information about rural and economic development initiatives across the workforce system or with our statutory partners, please feel free to send information to me, and I'm confident we can be a good resource for helping to engage with others. So thanks for the opportunity, Christopher.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lauren, for sharing. And we'll be sure to, share all that with folks in the follow-up as well. What have we had? One more?
QR code, if anybody wants to look up any of the programs that we have, but it ranges from housing to business programs to infrastructure programs, but we're here, I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I don't see any other hands up in the chat. If you have anything, feel free to just unmute yourself. All right.
Hello, Chris.
Go ahead.
This is Nana with SBA. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie with the Small Business Administration located here in Jacksonville. Our territory covers from the Panhandle up to Orlando. I just wanted to share that in recognition to Women's History Month, SBA is having 2 events. One is scheduled for the 22nd of March, and the next is the 28th. Both events will be virtual, and they both are free. Chris, if I can get the 2 flyers to you, I would love for you to be able to share out to the group so that way they can share with the individuals in their territories. And SBA does have a rural initiative in working with other agencies or organizations that provide support in those areas makes it that much easier for us to reach those individuals in those underserved markets. So I can share the flyer. We would love for you guys to share with those women that are looking to start a business or grow a business, just so they can learn how SBA can provide support. And also, if there's anyone that feels like SBA would make a great community partner, we are always looking for partners to help us to get the word out, to help our small business communities, those future and existing small business owners. Again, we have such a large reach in the North Florida area. It is very important for us to build those relationships. I had to jump off my laptop and join by phone. So if anyone wants to reach out to me, I can leave my phone number as well as my email address. And again, Chris, I would love to share both of those flyers. So everyone that's participating in this meeting can help us fill our virtual seats. My direct phone number is area code 904-443-1902. Again, 904-443-1902. And my email will be Natalie, which is spelled NATALIE.HALL @SBA.gov. Again, Natalie, NATALIE.HALL @SBA.gov. And again, if there's someone, again, that wants to begin to build a working relationship with the Small Business Administration, we would love to join forces with you to help our rural small business community. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. I'll be happy to share all of that. All right. Anyone else have anything? We only have a couple more minutes left if you have anything you want to jump on. But next meeting for REDI, it's going to be June 21st. That's a Friday, 3rd Friday in June. We are still looking to find a host for it. We have had some talks with Taylor County, so Perry is on our radar for that event. And we are looking to host at least one REDI meeting in each of the 3 RAOs this year. So Lake Wales got to represent a rural community and an urban county. Now we got the RAOs left, but all Northwest, North Central, and South Central. Looking to get out and get down to all of those. So if no one has anything else, thank you all for coming today. Thank you for allowing this new guy to come in and be a part of your community and partner with you. I look forward to working with you all throughout the rest of this year and in long-term going forward, and, you know, just developing those relationships and partnerships and working to support rural Florida. Thank you all. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.